Hello, welcome back to the workbench. I had a request on how to disassemble the MN82, so I thought I would show you how to do that, plus give you a tip on how to make your screwdriver a bit better. You probably have a screwdriver similar to this. You'll find that over time, this is going to strip out the screws because it's not really a tight fit. Okay, so you can fix this by using a fingernail file, sandpaper, and just blunt the tip of that screwdriver. So let me go do that. I'll be right back. Alright, I took just a little bit off of that. You can see from here compared to the pictures, the before and after pictures, not much was taken off. This fits in the screws much better. Alright, so to remove the frame from the MN82, it takes just it takes 6 screws. There's 2 screws up here. Here and here. There's 2 screws in the middle, here and here. And there are 2 screws on the end, here and here. So you take those screws out. And finally these 2. Okay. When you take any RC car apart, you want to be very careful when you lift up the frame, because there are wires that connect to this thing. And we have 2 wires. We have one wire here that's red. That is the battery connector. And then we have this wire here that goes to the headlights. Okay. So let's review what we have. There are 3 main components. There's the servo, which is this part. That's what makes it steer. There's the motor. That's what makes it go. And this is a brushed motor because it has 2 leads on it. A brushless motor would have 3 leads on it. And then finally, the radio system. This is a receiver and electronic speed control combo, which means it has both the electronic speed control and the receiver portion of the radio in it. The connections on this are the motor, the battery, the light for the headlights. On the MN99 version 2, if you get the 98, this connects to the lights that are on the roof. And then this is the full light. So on the S, I believe they would connect it here. I don't have an S, so I'm just assuming. This is a capacitor. This smooths out the motor, so it's not quite as jerky. That's what the capacitor's job is. Let's take out the radio so we can see what's going on here. Now that screw is different. It's a little bit smaller than the other screws. All the screws that held in the frame are all the same. So on the bottom here, you can see the different parts. So this is the MOSFET. This is what controls your speed. It turns off and on a whole bunch of times a second. That's what makes it go faster or slower, depending on how many times this turns off and on per second. And then this is the radio component itself. Lastly, this servo. This is a standard servo, which means it has a 3-wire system. A 3-wire system means that all of the servo controls, so that the radio knows where the servo is. All the controls are inside the servo. A 5-wire servo has 2 connections for the motor and 3 connections for the electronics inside, or just the potentiometer that measures the resistance of where the arm is. And then the controller for the servo is built onto the radio. This one, luckily, is the 3-wire, which is a standard servo, which means you can replace this servo with just about any servo you want. So what kind of upgrades can you do to this thing inexpensively? Well, the ones I did were the shocks that I have. I do have some trailing arms on there. I don't particularly care for them. I probably will go back to the springs, but these shocks will work as well. Unfortunately, the shocks are 2 different sizes. We have 53 millimeters in the back and 59 millimeters in the front. The shock kit that I got, I ended up buying 2 kits. I bought the first kit I bought off the AliExpress, came with these groovy little shock towers. You can use the shock towers that are built in if you'd like, just with the regular shocks. That's fine. But I have these groovy metal ones, and then I went and purchased some good shocks because the first ones I got, they leaked. The second item I would upgrade on this would be the drive shafts. On any of the MN models, the drive shaft is a safe upgrade to do. You want to make sure you get the right ones. The MN99 S series, the version 2, has a different drive shaft than the version 1 series. So you need to make sure you get the right one. I'll have a link to both of those in the description below. The other upgrade you can do that's fairly easy and straightforward would be the servo. The servo, you'll want to get one that has a higher torque for crawling. You really don't need speed in crawling. You need more torque in crawling. So you can get a more torquey servo if you find that when you do your steering maneuvers, when you're doing your crawling, the steering just isn't moving at all. It's binding up, it's not moving. And that is most likely because the servo needs more torque and you need a little bit better servo for that. The motor on this thing is actually fine. I'm quite happy with the motor in this one. It's the same motor that's in the new version of the MN99S, same transmission as well. The radio, yeah, you can upgrade the radio, but when you upgrade the radio on one of these, it's not really toy grade, it's not really hobby grade. I don't know what to call this thing. On the type where you have an all-in-one electronic speed control and receiver, you have to get 2 items. You have to get a receiver and you have to get an electronic speed control. Electronic speed control controls the speed of your motor. The receiver receives signal from your transmitter. So you'd have to get both of those. What you'll want to do if you're going to get into this hobby is to get a radio system where you can do multiple models without a hassle, and check to make sure the receivers are inexpensive. You can get a nice radio, but you'll find the receivers are like $50, $30 for a receiver. But you can do a little bit more digging, get something like a Radio Link, and you'll find that the receivers on there are inexpensive. They're like $14, $17 for the receivers. You can go to Dumbo and get those. I haven't tried those yet. I've just seen and read online, but those receivers are quite inexpensive as well. So that is how you disassemble and what the main components of a RC car are. I hope that's helpful. I hope that helps you get some of these things fixed, and be sure to stay tuned for more tips like this.